What's up, y'all? It's your boy Tevin Jameer back at it again with another episode of the Hate It or Love It podcast. And as you guys can see this week, I'm finally going to finish ranking the big three. That's right. Today, I'm going to be ranking all of J. Cole's albums. I've actually had this idea for a good minute now. I actually had the ranking on my phone, like, I think even right before the whole Kendrick and Drake beef went down, but because of that and because of like other things, and I did take a little break from the podcast in between. I think I did, like, there were just so much stuff going on that I just didn't get around to this episode. But now that everything died down, and then also this week I don't really have too many things to talk about just yet, so I was like, let me knock out this album ranking. And I do want to start doing more rankings on the podcast, not even just music wise, but even, you know, someday I would like to do like certain type of film rankings. If there's any directors you guys want me to rank their films, if you guys want to know my top films of all time, like, you know, these are the type of things I also want to do with the podcast. And they're like little fun episodes. Like whenever I don't have topics to talk about, they're actually like fun episodes to make in between while I think of topics or, you know, stuff like that. So that's partly why I'm doing this episode. And besides, J. Cole, despite my criticism that I gave him towards him apologizing during the midst of the beef, you know, I still got to say J. Cole is one of my greats. I still consider him as good of an artist as Kendrick. I know that's a crazy thing to say for a lot of people, but I believe that Kendrick and J. Cole are equally skilled. So, you know, when I said all of that about J. Cole's apology, he disappointed me in that moment, but that doesn't mean I take away any of the greatness that he's done in his career. Like, no matter how you feel about that situation, he still put out classic albums. He still got songs that if you turn on in the club or just anywhere, people will know word by word. Like, he is still a legend in hip hop, and that's something you can't take away from him. So, you know, I just want that to be known. But all right, y'all, if you guys subscribe to me for like my film and, you know, my other type of topics for the podcast and for my channel, sorry, like I said, next week I'm going to try to come up with something different, but this week I just want to keep it music for this week. And before I get started, I do want to say thank you to everybody that's been subbing, liking, you know, showing love to the channel. I've been seeing the numbers go up, and yeah, this is y'all the reason I keep trying to be consistent, because I want to give y'all great content. So yeah, keep it up, let your people know about my channel. And yeah, okay, enough plugs to the channel. Now let's get into it. So at number 7 we have Might Delete Later. And yeah, this is J. Cole's most recent project, and the reason that I have this one here is, now I just want to say that when I first listened to the album, I thought it was trash. I'm not gonna lie to you. I said it was trash. I showed up on my cousin's podcast like a month ago, and I said like the album was ass and stuff like that. But truth be told, I don't think it's trash, but I do definitely think it's on the lower end of good. Like it's in between. If there's any in between good and okay, that's where this album is at. Because I don't think the album is like straight up trash. I did say that out of all of J. Cole's albums, I feel like this is lyrically his best performance. While I don't go back to listen to a lot of the songs on the album, I really don't go back to listen to the album that much at all anyway. I think the only song that I have went back to was Trey the Truth in Ibiza, but that's the only song I really go back to. Like, the rest of the album is, like I said, it's not trash, but it's just something that I much rather not listen to. And the only positive that I really can give the album really is just the fact that I feel like he is lyrically giving his best performance out of all his albums. But you know, a lot of people were saying that this album was throwaways from the Fall Off and stuff like that. And, you know, if it is, at least I know that he's lyrically going to give us his best body of work. I can say that. But I hope that if this is true, that Might Delete Later was his throwaways, I really hope that he really kept the best songs for, you know, the Fall Off. But as of right now, Might Delete Later is just on my lower end of my J. Cole list, and it's kind of sad because like when he first announced the album, like, well, he didn't necessarily do like an official announcement, but like when he started teasing, you know how J. Cole is, he doesn't really do like big rollouts. He'll make like a random page and then he'll just do like random things. Like when he first started promoting Might Delete Later, and we didn't even know it was an album yet, but like when he started doing all of that, it was just like I was so excited because I knew new music was on the way. But when we got what we got, it was just like okay. So it's not a bad album, but trust me, I'm never in a rush to listen to this album again. So yeah. At number 6, we have Cold World, The Sideline Story. Now, everything from here I think is good to amazing body of works, and the Cold World Sideline Story is a great album in my opinion. I like this album. It got a lot of hits on it that I still go back and listen to this day, even songs that people criticize about the album I actually genuinely like Mr. Nice Watch. I've heard so many people talk shit about this album, I mean about that song, but I don't really think it's bad. Like I just, you know, I like it. But if I had to say why this album is on the lower end of the list, the only real criticism I guess I can really give it is you can tell that this is kind of J. Cole's like most mainstream project. Like you can tell that the label was really trying to get him to make hits and stuff like that. And matter of fact, that's how we even got Work Out. That's how we got Work Out, because, you know, they wanted a hit song for the album, so he made Work Out. And while other people may have problems with Work Out, Nas, Work Out is a banger. Like, that's the thing I can say about this album. If you want to just listen to just bangers from J. Cole, then yeah, just listen to this album. This is J. Cole's most mainstream banger sounding album, but you do get some deeper cuts on the album. Like, it's not just all, you know, bangers and stuff like that. Sideline Story is personally my favorite song on the album, and that's more of a deeper album. Deeper song. Lost Ones was another one that, you know, when this album first came out in high school, like all my boys kept talking about Lost Ones. So, oh wait, no, this came out when I was in middle school. I had my years mixed up. But yeah, like that was one that a lot of people that I knew was talking about, Lost Ones. So yeah, you know, if you want to hear a J. Cole album where you can get like your most radio friendly songs, but you can get occasional, you know, deeper songs here and there, Sideline Story is one of them. And, you know, like I said, I still think this is a great album. I do go back to listen to it a couple of times. So, you know, just because it sounds mainstream doesn't mean I won't, you know, go back and listen to it. Because if you're doing it right, then, you know, I'll go back. At number 5, we have For Your Eyes Only. This one is probably, actually no, I was gonna say this was J. Cole's probably most controversial album, or not controversial but polarizing album, but the next album I have above this I would say is his most polarizing album. But when this album dropped, this was definitely his most polarizing, and I don't understand why this wasn't his most polarizing. I don't understand why this was his most polarizing, because For Your Eyes Only is a very beautiful album. It's a conceptual album where it's kind of like him telling the story of his friend to his friend's daughter, and his friend passed away, so he's kind of like telling the story of his friend to his friend's daughter. But it also touches on a lot of personal things for J. Cole, because around the time he also had his own kid for the first time. So it's just like, it's a very beautiful album talking about the life of his friend, but also talking about his life to their children and stuff like that. It's just a very beautiful album. And I have to say, like, out of all his albums, this might be his most personal, in my opinion. At least in my opinion. I know Forest Hill Drive is another personal one for him, but it's just like, this one was personal and sad and dark and stuff like that, but it's also very beautiful, because despite some of the things that happens in this album and some of the things that he talks about, he does try to end it on a positive note, basically talking about, like, you know, how everything that his friend has went through, everything that he's done was for his daughter. So it's a very beautiful album. I gotta say, you really gotta be in the mood to listen to it fully. I think I only fully listened to this album like maybe 4 or 5 times, but truth be told, I only go back to like songs that you can listen to just to turn on when you want to. Like, Um, hold on, let me pull up the track list real quick. Yeah, so I go back to listen to Immortal, Deja Vu, Neighbors. Change is an underrated song on the album, in my opinion. But if you want to listen to the whole album all the way through, like I said, you got to be in the mood for it because it is a very dark type of album. But, you know, listening to it, it starts out dark, but it does end in a beautiful note. And truth be told, anybody that didn't like it before, I kind of encourage y'all to give it a re-listen, especially now. Like, that album dropped when I was in my, I think, either junior or senior year of high school. It dropped when I was in high school, and a lot of it was a, like I said, it was a very polarizing album. So like throughout the school day, I had people debating like, oh, this album is amazing because of this. No, this album is ass because of this. And it's like, now that we're older and a lot of the people that I went to high school with now has kids, a topic that is very heavy in this album, I'm kind of like, I want to see people re-listen to it and see if their opinion changed at all. So, you know, if you didn't like it back then, give it a re-listen. If you didn't ever hear the album but you like how I'm describing it, give it a listen, because it is actually a very beautiful album, and I feel like it deserves a lot more credit than it's given. At number 4, we have KOD, and where his discography stand now, this is definitely his most polarizing album without debate, because I've heard more negative things about KOD than positive, but when people feel positively about this album, they will fight these people that think negatively of this album. So I'm trying to figure out. So for me, I love this album. I like a lot of the songs on there, and it's crazy because just like how I said Sideline Story was like full of bangers and mainstream hits, this album has a very mainstream sound, but it's not mainstream at all. And like, it's not mainstream at all when you go into like the context and the meaning of the album, because that's kind of what J. Cole made this album for. He made it so that it could sound like, you know, at the time, the mumble rappers and the trap sound that was like very popular in like the 2016 to 2018 era. Or I guess you could say that it was still popular after that, but like, you know, around the 2016 class and like how big they made an impact in hip hop around that time with the sound. J. Cole, he went from hating that sound and not understanding those rappers to wanting to try to understand them more. And that's kind of what this album kind of touches on. He's trying to connect with the sound of the new, you know, the new wave at the time. He was trying to tackle the topics of drug abuse and addiction and stuff like that. Like, this album was basically J. Cole somewhat trying to understand the youth. And I know that may make him sound like an old head that just doesn't get the kids, but it's just like, you know, he was using the sound to try to, you know, give them advice and talk to them and, you know, stuff like that. And truth be told, maybe that's why people didn't like it, because maybe there's like a section of people that feel like he might have been attacking them through this album, or maybe there's like a section that just doesn't want to hear him be preachy, because I'm not gonna lie, this might be his most preachiest album, but I like, you know, preachy J. Cole, and I still go back to listen to this album frequently. This is one that I personally feel like I can listen to all the way through with no problem. And there's a lot of songs that I go back to a lot. KOD, Photograph, ATM, Motivate, Brackets. Kevin's Heart got overplayed for me, I'm not gonna lie. Like, so many people kept playing Kevin's Heart, so I still like it, but people was getting on my nerves with it. Friends, Window Pane, 1985. I basically just named this whole damn track list, but my favorite song is Brackets. I feel like that one is very underrated, and I kind of just like the melody and the message to the song. So yeah, if you guys didn't like KOD before, I'm not gonna lie, this isn't like For Your Eyes Only, where I think your perspective is gonna change as you get older. Like, if you just didn't like it, you just didn't like it. But KOD, I feel like, deserves a lot more respect than it's given, because, you know, it's a very deep album, which also, just like I said, it's deep, but it does have that sound that, like, you know, you could turn on in a club or in a party and people might like it. So yeah. Um, Number three, we have Born Sinner. And what can I say about this album that a lot of people haven't already said? This album is amazing. Like, and this is the first J. Cole album that I've actually heard from beginning to end. And this album is completely amazing. If you ask me, I kind of go back and forth with the album that I have at number two. I go back and forth between Born Sinner and the other album for like what's my second favorite J. Cole album, because both of them are just so good. Like Born Sinner, it's hard to describe it because it's just a great album all the way through. And I feel like if I start saying all the things that I like about it, I'm just gonna be sitting here repeating information that everybody's already said about Born Sinner. So I'm gonna keep this one short. It's a lot of great songs on there. You know, this was his second studio album after The Sideline Story, and just like how I said, The Sideline Story, you can tell that the label was forcing him to make mainstream sounding music. You can tell with Born Sinner, he was finally allowed to do fully what he wanted to do, because you do have a couple of mainstream hits like Power Trip, which I'm gonna need people to stop playing Power Trip when you're in your feelings. Yo, when I found out that Power Trip was a sequel to Dreams from, I forget which mixtape it was. It was from one of his early mixtapes. When I found out that Power Trip was a sequel to Dreams, I was like, yo, people need to stop playing this song when they're in their feelings. This song is actually fucked up. Like I can't stand like a song that has a mainstream sound, but you know, people gravitate towards it, but they're not really paying attention to like the deeper meaning to it. Like, you know, I am glad that J. Cole got a hit. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad about that. But it's just like, you guys need to understand the context of some of the songs that you guys are like, you know, bumping. Cause I've seen plenty of people play Power Trip when they were in their feelings. Like, oh, Tev, I miss her. Like, you know, I miss that girl and I want her back. And you're playing Power Trip, but it's like, yo, you are not listening to this in the right context. Like if you listen to Dreams, yo, I'm gonna say this and then quick tangent aside, listen to Dreams and then listen to Power Trip and realize why the hell you need to stop listening to Power Trip in that type of context. But yeah, so rant aside, you got a couple of hits like Power Trip, Crooked Smile, and you know, there's other songs that I feel like that you could play as bangers and stuff like that. But for the most part, this album was like very deep. It was very deep, and I love the religious themes that's expressed throughout the album because, you know, I said it before, I am Christian, but sometimes I feel like Christian rap and Christian music can sometimes come off corny. And not saying that this album is like a Christian album or anything like that, but it does touch on a lot of religious themes. And I like when rappers or singers are able to touch on religious themes and not make it necessarily corny. So, you know, that's one aspect that I really love about this album. But overall, I would just have to say, like, this album is just a great body of work. Definitely one I can listen to from beginning to end, and even out of context, I can listen to this album like with no problem. So, you know, like I said, there wasn't really much I could say about this album that a lot of people haven't already said. So, you know, I would say go check out Born Sinner, but most people probably already have at this point. But if you're one of the 5 people that never listened to the Born Sinner album, go check it out. It's gonna be worth your while. And then at number 2, the one that I say flip-flops a lot with Born Sinner is the Off Season. And there was actually a time, okay, so here's the reason why Off Season is number 2 and beat out Born Sinner for me. There was actually a time where I was debating, is Off Season my favorite album from J. Cole? That's how good this album is. There was a time where I was actually debating, is the album at number 1, which at this point is obvious which one's number 1, but I'm not going to say it just in case somebody doesn't know. But yeah, Off Season is, man, this is just an amazing body of work. So I could just sit here and name the whole project. Like, that's how much I love this project. But basically, what I really love about the Off Season is just how motivational of an album it is. Like, and let me say this. Like I said, I talk about this openly on my podcast, so this ain't nothing new. But around the time that this album came out, I was diagnosed with depression. And let's just say that it was not a good time in my life when this album first came out. And I know when certain people talk, they say like this song or this album or this artist saved my life and stuff like that. But for me, it is really not an exaggeration when I say like this album genuinely saved my life. Like when I say that was a rough time in my life, I mean that shit. And this album was the motivational album that I needed at that time. And even if you're not going to the album just for motivation, you got songs like 95 South, Amari, My Life, 100 Mil. Like, you got a lot of songs on this album that you can just listen to if you want to listen to stuff like that. But what I love about this album, so the theme of the album is, as we all know, J. Cole was also aspiring to be like a basketball player at one point. And even around the time he was playing in the African League when this album came out and stuff like that. So this whole album was basically like a basketball theme, but it was also somewhat like a continuation of the themes from his early mixtape. And and throughout the album, he kind of likens the rap game and rapping ability to playing basketball and trying to get in the league. So he has a lot of motivational songs that I can definitely see athletes playing while they're practicing and training and stuff like that. But even if you're not into the same stuff, like, you know, a lot of the mentality and things and themes that he talks on can be applied to just any point in life. Like, he talks about not giving up. He talks about like the opportunities that you're given, you got to take, you know, shots at it. Even the final song on the album, Hunger on Hillside, like, shit gonna get hard, keep your head strong. If I quit now, then I'm dead wrong. Like, there's just so much meaning to this album. And I don't want to just chalk it up to like it came out at a perfect time in my life for it. Like, I'm not just going to chalk it up to the fact that it did actually genuinely come out at a very convenient time for me when I needed that motivation from, you know, people and things and stuff like that. But even if you take away that aspect of it, it just overall, I just feel like I love motivational albums. I love feel good type albums. I love albums that, you know, tells you to keep going and stuff like that. And it's not preachy at all, but like, it just, you know, it's just some real stuff. And that's what I love about this album and the album that's #1, Shows, and of course Born Sinner. But these three albums definitely show why J. Cole is as great of an artist in my eyes as he is, because it's just like, you know, the motivation, the deep, like the deep things that he talks about and stories and stuff like that. Like, these three albums, especially this one shows why J. Cole is where he's at, you know, musically for me. So if you guys are going through a rough time right now, the off season, if it helped me, so I would like to think that it would help you. You know, even if you're not that big of a J. Cole fan, I would still say give this one a try, because there's enough for everybody in this album. But overall, it's just, like I said, it's a motivational motivational, you know, just upbeat sounding album. It's just one of those albums that, like, if you're having a bad day, you listen to it, and by the end, hopefully it definitely makes your day a lot better. So, you know, yeah. And then at #1, come on, obviously, Forest Hills Drive. It's his classic. It's his undebatable classic. Like, when just like how I said with Born Sinner, what the hell can I say about Forest Hills Drive that has not been said at all about Forest Hills Drive? So I'm going to keep this one real short, sweet, and simple. A lot of the things that I said about Born Sinner and the off season can be applied to this. Forest Hill Drive, you get that motivation, you get some of those bangers, but you get a lot of deep stories. You get basically, actually, you know how I said, now that I really think about it, you know how I said My Delete Later might be J. Cole's lyrically best album? This still might be tied with it, in my opinion. So yeah, Forest Hill Drive, you just got a lot of classic songs, a lot of, deep songs, bangers. Another motivational album. I definitely listened to this album a lot through a lot of bad times. I can listen to this album from beginning to end like nothing. I can listen to this like nothing. And when I listen to this album, it takes me back to my sophomore year of high school when this album first came out. A lot of moments in my life, I would listen to this album, and even songs. Like, I would just go back to listen to this project like so many times. And I don't know, it's just an amazing body of work. Like I said, there's not much that I can add onto it. All the great things that you've heard about this album and all the great things that you heard people say about this, I would just wind up saying it over again. So just know that this is number one. And I'd like to hope that the off season, as much as J. Cole is hyping up the off season, or not the off season, the fall off, I would like to hope that as much as J. Cole is hyping the fall off, I really hope that it's better than Forest Hills Drive. But to be honest, it's a very hard album to beat, because like I said, even with the off season, I was debating, but in the end, I still got to give it to Forest Hills Drive. An amazing body of work, and there's a reason that this is an undisputed rap classic. Whether you like J. Cole or not, even J. Cole haters will admit that this shit is classic. Not saying that they'll think it's good, but like, it's just one of those albums where it's just like, come on, everybody's heard it, everybody listened to it. But there is something I do want to ask. For any women that is listening to this album, listening to this podcast, listening to this episode, if you got this far, I don't really get too many comments in my videos, so I don't know if any women will comment, but I just need this answer. Like, I just need an answer to this question. Why do y'all love Wet Dreams so much? Like, I mean the song Wet Dreams from J. Cole. Why do y'all love Wet Dreams so much? I swear, every girl I talked to, that I had a situation with, that I dated, it doesn't matter. Every time I talk to a girl and they find out that I love J. Cole, and I'm like, oh, like, when I find out that they're a fan of J. Cole and they know that I'm a fan of J. Cole, and I ask them what's their favorite song, it does not cease to stop. Every single girl will say Wet Dreams is their favorite song from J. Cole, and I don't understand why. Any women, followers, listeners, please answer this damn question for me, because I do not understand. Oh my gosh. Like, the next girl that tells me that their favorite song is Wet Dreams, I'm going to be like, bro, okay, so what's your second favorite song? Matter of fact, that's what I'm about to start asking women. What's your second favorite song for J. Cole? I already know number one. I don't need the answer no more. I don't understand the collective love for Wet Dreams like that. Like, I'm not saying that in a way like I don't like the song. I love the song, but it's just like every single girl I've dated or even had a situation with all said that. And it's like, come on, yo. Come on, yo. I gotta understand this. So any women that listen to J. Cole and it is your favorite song. Now, if it's not your favorite song, please tell me what your favorite song is from J. Cole. But if it is your favorite song, please answer down below. What is it? What is it? Like, what is it? I just need to know. But all right, random rant aside, thank you guys for listening to the episode. If you made it this far, obviously comment down below. What's some of your favorite J. Cole albums? How would you rank it? I know you guys are gonna also tell me if you feel like I misranked them, kind of like what I did with the Kendrick album. Like, some people said that I misranked it, but I mean, it's my ranking, so yeah. Like I said earlier in the podcast, thank you guys for liking, subscribing, and thank you guys for rocking with me as I'm trying to be more consistent and upload and do more things with this channel. So yeah, thanks for rocking with me. And with all that being said, Tevin Jameer signing out. Catch y'all on the next one.